Okay. All right, so this is our break. Like always at 7:55, we're gonna have the break, and you already know that. Okay, let me bring up the PowerPoint for today. Okay. So this is gonna be our second PowerPoint for today, and we're going to talk about the cloud concepts. This is the foundational part of the Microsoft Azure. And then there are very important concepts that you guys need to understand to be able to start and as a cloud, expert if you continue studying the cloud. So the objectives of this lesson 1, is the end of the module. You're going to be able to describe and understand cloud services and their benefits, understand key terms you will encounter when working with the cloud services, understand public, private, and hybrid cloud models, understand infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Can you guys hear me well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hello.
Okay. Good.
Yes, perfect.
Yes. Thank you. All right. So why do we use cloud services? Guys, can you tell me why? Can anyone tell me why we would prefer the cloud over on-premises? Can someone tell me?
Eliminate hardware costs.
Eliminate what? Sorry?
Costs. Infrastructure.
Infrastructure?
Yes.
Have
To increase reliability.
yes,
Okay.
high availability and having how do you call that? The concept redundant, the redundance.
Resiliency, redundancy. Okay. Okay. Good. Good. Anything else?
The ability to scale
Okay.
elastically.
Right. Okay. What else?
Security, you don't have to spend a lot of money up front in order to have a very
cost.
good
Reduce cost.
That's convert capex to opex.
Okay. So convert capex to
Or
opex.
trade capital expenses for variable expenses.
Okay, that's good. You bring in that concept from AWS. It still applies to Microsoft Azure. Why not? Okay, so, well, something that you can find in the cloud is compute power. Okay, that you can find in your computer too, and on premises. But this is one of the things that the cloud offers, and you don't have to worry about anything. It's just the cloud provider will take care of that. So here you can have Linux servers, you can have Windows servers, you can have web applications where you can have some code. You don't need to be a programmer or to be able to deploy a web application in Azure. Okay, you just need to have the code, and then you just upload the code, and it's later on. That's it. So that's what they call platform as service. So you can have a platform, and then on top of the platform, you can deploy code. Okay, and when we see web apps, we're gonna see how we can deploy .NET or Python or Java or JavaScript code without even being a programmer. Okay, so we can find storage. Such as files and databases, and what is good about the cloud is that it's virtually unlimited. So there's a limit per file because you cannot upload a 2 terabyte file, but you can have as much storage as you want. It's unlimited. It's virtually unlimited. There's a limit per file, but there's no limit as to how much you can store in the cloud. Okay, we can have networking, and when you have a computer, you have firewalls, you have network attached storage, all that you can have it in the cloud as well. Everything that you have physically, that you have in your computer or your infrastructure on premises, you can have it in the cloud as well. There's always an equivalent that you can find in the cloud. So we can have secure connections between the cloud provider and your company. You can have some extension to be able to connect from the on-prem to the cloud. And you could also have some analytics like visualizing telemetry and performance data. Just as AWS, Azure also has services where you can visualize your data and you can have analytics and analyze it and clean it and just put it the way you want, okay? So a cloud provider includes Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. We know that already. So we know that Amazon is number one. Then we have Microsoft. Then you have Google, and then you have, I think Alibaba is also there. IBM is also, fighting to be among the first. So there are several cloud providers, but we are most interested in Azure, okay? That's the one that we are discussing today, okay? So we have some key concepts, guys, that you need to understand and just bear in mind. And it's very important that when we finish the class today, you go over every single slide and try to, understand everything and kind of memorize it a little bit, because this exam, like any other fundamental exam, what it is a memory test. It will test your memorization, okay? So it's very important that you understand that. And on Friday at 6:30, we're gonna have an exam, okay? It's gonna be a test on this slide. It's gonna be like 15 questions that you have to answer at 6:30 on Friday. Okay, so we have concepts like high availability, scalability, global reach, like I mentioned in the agenda for today, okay? I don't have to repeat that again. Okay, so high availability. What is high availability? So basically what it is you have the concept of an availability zone in a cloud provider. So we've seen that before, but in Azure is not exception to the rule. So you can have two availability zones, and you can have servers in both. So that's why Azure recommends to have at least two availability zones and two servers, like just in case one goes down, you still have the other one to cover that one that is down, okay? And you still can stay up and running. I think that this is a very standard concept that every single cloud provider has, very standard. So you will find it everywhere. Why? Because every single business owner, every single company, they don't want to have any interruption. They don't want to stop, their servers. They want to keep running, so the user experience is not affected. And that's very important. The better the user experience, the better your business is going to be, and the more money you are likely to make, right? So high availability refers to a set of technologies that minimize IT disruptions by providing business community of IT services through redundant, fault-tolerant, or failover protected components inside the same data center. In our case, the data centers reside within one Azure region. Well, I can tell you that right off the bat, again, like we were comparing AWS with Azure, I can tell you that Azure has more availability zones and more regions than AWS. AWS has 24 regions, and some of them are in the works, but Azure has more than 60 regions in the entire world, which is, pretty good, because the more regions you have, the more available you're gonna be, okay? So in this case, we have two storage accounts. One is AAS1. That's one type of, when we get there, we're gonna see it, standard AAS1 and standard AAS2, two different storage accounts types, sizes, right? And then we have two SAP applications, right? And probably but SAP stands for System Applications and Products in Data Processing. So by definition, SAP It's also the name of the ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning software, as well as the name of the company. So SAP software is an European multinational founded in 1972 by Wilhelm Rauter. It's a German name. Hub Hetter, Platter, and Tricia. They're the people that, founded this company. So they develop software solutions for managing business operations and customer relationships. All right. So this is the name of the application, but it's also the name of the company. So like I think it was Alva, she was saying that redundancies. So the more availability zones you have, the more redundant you're going to be, right? And this is a load balancer, right? We know this concept already. I mean, some of you know this concept, probably others don't. A load balancer is like a traffic cop that distributes the traffic to the servers, okay? So it's a very good idea to have a load balancer in front of your servers so your traffic can be distributed accordingly. And, like any load balancer, it has a health check system that sends like some heartbeats communication here to every single server to know if the server is operational. If it is not, the load balancer will stop sending traffic there and will send traffic to the healthy servers. So that's how you name them. When they are operational, you call them the healthy servers. If they're not operational, then you call them unhealthy. Okay. So the next term is fault tolerance. And what is fault tolerance? It's the ability to remain up and running. When there's a disaster, like like storm or fire or something that happens in the data center, right? Or in that region, that the region goes down, is offline. So your system, when the system is fault tolerance, is capable of still remain up and running no matter the disaster. So that's a very good feature that any system should have to be able to keep the user experience intact, right? So it keeps running even in the event of a component or service no longer functioning. So typically, redundancy is built into cloud services architecture. So if one component fails, a backup component takes its place. The type of service is said to be tolerant of faults. So in the case of Azure, for example, it has SQL databases, and it maintains multiple copies of all the databases in different physical nodes located across fully independent physical subsystems. So it could be a server, rack, or network routers. So at one time, the Windows Azure SQL database keeps 3 replicas of each database, 1 primary replica and 2 secondary replicas. So what happens? The first one is the one that is, fully working, and the other ones are standby, just in case the first one fails. It will fail over to the one that is in standby. So that's how these systems work. You have one working, in the case of database, you have one master database that is receiving writes and reads, and then you have one that is constantly and synchronously being updated. Just in case of an event, it will take charge, and all the traffic will be routed to that once standby database or replica, and it's now a primary one. Okay. So elasticity. What's elasticity? So it is the ability of increasing or decreasing the resources, right? So when you hear the term elastic, what it means is that the cloud can shrink and can expand based on the need of the infrastructure of the company, right? Let's say that you have 3 servers that are operational, and then the company or the system needs 1 more because the traffic has drastically increased. Then the system will create of course, you have to program that. You have to configure that. The system will create one more for you, so it will expand. It will scale out. So it's very important that you know this terminology like scaling, scale out, scale up, scale down. So I'm not gonna answer the question. I'm gonna ask a question, guys. What do you understand by scale out? Can someone tell me that, please? What's scale out?
Adding more number of instances.
Right. When you hear scale out, thank you, and when you hear the word scale out, it means to increase the number of servers. Scale out is move to the right, right? Like increase the number of servers. And when you know what scale out means, then you know what scale in means. So scaling is just decrease the number of servers. Let's say that you have a lot of traffic and then you have 3 servers, right? And then all of a sudden, the traffic, decreases, and then you need to remove 1 server because you're over provision. You have more servers than you need. So you will have to have a scaling policy that tells you that it's time to scaling to reduce the number of servers. Now, can someone tell me what is scale up?
It's to increase the capacity of the machines that you're using.
Example.
Size too.
Example.
You upgrade to a bigger machine, or you just add more storage space.
Right. Or capacity in the disk, right?
Yeah, capacity of disk, or you add more processor, more ability to process.
And of course, if you know scale up, you know scale down, which is the opposite, right? So 4 terms, or maybe mainly 1 term with 4 variants. So we have scale, which means decrease or increase, right? And then you have scale out, that means increase the number of servers. Scaling, it means decrease the number of servers. Scale up is to increase the power of the machine, of the server. And scale down is decrease the power of your server. Okay, very important. So we continue reading here. Elastic resources match the current needs. So everything is based on your needs, okay? And resources are added or removed automatically. That's why you have auto scale, right? To meet future needs when it's needed and from the most advantageous geographic locations. So you have to place your servers in the most convenient location for your users and also for your company. That's very important. A distinction between scalability and elasticity is that elasticity is done automatically, right? So the next one is reliability. And what is reliability? Is, the time that your services are going to be up and running. That's the uptime. In the case of Azure, this is taken from the documentation. Azure can keep an average of 99.995% uptime. So it means that out of 100, 99.995% your service is going to be up and running. Okay, so it means that when something happens, of course, you have to have your infrastructure, prepared for this. But if something happens, right, there's only a 0.005% that of downtime. Only that, which is, pretty good. It shows how reliable Azure is, right? So, and what is downtime? The time when your service is not working, right? It's like that time in between when there is a server that has been turned off and another one has been is taking over. That time between one being down and the other one being up. So that's the downtime, right? So agility, this kind of services, they're capable of reacting really, really fast, right? And one of the benefits of the cloud is agility, speed. It's quick, it's fast, right? My question for you is, guys, and I think I have asked this question before. Have you ever seen Netflix being down for more than a minute? Yes, no,
No.
maybe,
Oh,
perhaps. Does everybody have Netflix? Everybody? Have you ever seen Netflix down for more than 1 minute?
nope.
No.
No.
Do you know? And you know, yes, I'm gonna ask. You know what cloud provider Netflix is using?
AWS.
Yeah.
Okay, so the same services, I mean, the same concept that AWS has, Azure has it. So, do you know any company that's using Azure as a service provider, cloud provider?
LinkedIn, Stack.
LinkedIn?
Yeah, I know LinkedIn does. I know Stack does.
Mazars USA. That's the company that Trump uses for his taxes.
Okay. Yes, a lot of government, you know, a lot of government deals with Azure. There's a lot of
Didn't the military just win?
yeah.
Didn't Microsoft just win the military hosting for the hosting for the military, and then Amazon is trying to sue?
Yeah, the Jedi contract.
Yeah.
Office
Also, Disney.
365.
Also, Disney had a very good deal with Azure, Disney as well, Disney World. So, have you ever seen? I mean, are you the kind of person that is always on LinkedIn? Are you guys on LinkedIn all the time, or do you?
I am.
You are.
Yes, I
Have
am.
you ever
Not all the time, twice a day, but not all
twice
the
a
time
day?
every day.
Okay.
Not
The
all the
times
time,
that
but
you've
twice a
been-
day.
The times that you've been on LinkedIn, have you ever seen LinkedIn down?
Never.
Never, right?
No.
You know, that's a live example. That's a living example of the uptime and the reliability of Azure. Because, for example, today I was checking zombies.org. You know that website for when you create a company here in Florida.
Yes, yes.
You have to go to zombies.org. That site is constantly down right now. You have to refresh the page several times if you want to see your company, or you want to search for a company. You have to. Let me see here. If I go here.
That's so funny because I was actually just on there for a client before class called and I couldn't get into.
Yeah, you come here. Let's say you see.
Yeah, but
You
if
get-
you go click on
But if you
go back
refresh,
to registered agent, it'll let you go through.
yeah, but if you refresh, even when you do this, this is very weird. So I think it's the link, probably the link. Let's say that you want to check something like this one.
That's not secure.
And what is not secure?
Just the whole fact that you can just click on
No,
something.
no, no.
and
Like,
look it
that's
up.
not what I mean. Like, if you go back to the main page, that's secure. So your traffic is encrypted, but you go to that page you just went to.
Like when you're searching for
Oh,
somebody's name.
Oh, right here. Yes, yes.
Oh yeah.
How
You can
can
search
a
for
government
somebody's name.
how can a government company be not secure? So that's pretty weird, right? Something is going on with this site recently, because every time you try, not every time, but most of the time, last night, I tried to do it several times and always got a 503, which is a status code for server problem, right? So right now it's working. I want to see my name, for example.
That really
So
important.
I got this,
Okay.
but it's pretty weird. I don't know what's going on. So you know, it might be the link. I don't think it's the website. Probably the link to that page is down, or something is incorrect. Something is going on. Someone is probably intersecting the traffic. As you can see, it's not secure. But something is going on there. Something is not right. Okay. So that's an example of a page that is down, right? And I'm pretty surprised that they haven't fixed it, because it's been like that for 2 or 3 days and no one has reported that. So people, I mean, the developers behind that company, in the company, I don't think they're working on the page, because we're still, you know, the problem still persists. It's not fixed. Okay. So customer service is very important. So part of the, you know, the customer experience is to be able to react quickly. And this is automated. This is not, there's no person, there's not a person just behind the computer waiting for the system to be down. This is automatic, right? Automated. So cloud services can allocate and deallocate resources quickly. They are provided on demand via self-service, so vast amounts of computing resources can be provisioned in minutes. There's no manual intervention in provisioning or deprovisioning services. Like I said, it's all automated. And that is one of the purposes of DevOps, right? Development and operations, is to be able to automate everything. So you don't want to have someone working there. Let's just have that person take care of something else, not of this. But there's a caveat, and it is that automation gives us a sense of confidence. So when you have something that is automated, you just relax and forget about it. That's not good practice. You still have to supervise that. You still have to check on that, because systems fails. Like someone said, everything fails. Everything fails. So you have to plan for failure. That's very important. Okay. So another term is global reach, right? And what is global reach? It's the ability to reach audiences around the globe. One of the benefits of the cloud is that you can be global in minutes, right? So from the comfort of your house, in front of a computer, you can architect an infrastructure and become global in minutes. Okay, even seconds. It depends on how fast your system is and how fast the provider is. So you don't even have to be in China. You can be in China virtually. You know, that's the benefits of, one of the benefits of the cloud. So cloud services can have presence in various regions across the globe, which you can access, giving you a presence in those regions, even though you may not have any infrastructure in that region. Okay. So let's say that you don't have a region in China, you can still be in China. But that's important. Now, the fact that we have a region in one specific place, it doesn't mean that we have an availability zone. There are some regions that don't have availability zones. So that's something that we have to understand as part of the fundamentals for Azure, is that not every single region has an availability zone. And the cost of services varies depending on the region and the availability zone. That's very important too. Okay. So the fact that the hour or the second for a server in the US region, East region, doesn't mean that the central US region is going to have the same cost. The cost varies from region to region. Okay. Another key another key element here is the customer latency capabilities. So if customers are experiencing slowness with a particular cloud service, they are said to be experiencing some latency. That's a very common term, right? A latency means delay in the service, right? The higher the latency, the worse your service is performing, right? So even though modern fiber optics are fast, it can still take time for services to react to customer actions if the service is not local to the customer. So cloud services, this is when the cloud comes in. Cloud services have the ability to deploy your resources in data centers around the globe. So that's addressing customer latency issues. Let's say that your customers are in Japan. You can deploy your resources in a Japan region, and then your customers in Japan will be able to experience, very low latency. Okay. And of course, you're gonna have happy customers. If you have happy customers, you have, more success in your business, right? Any questions so far? No? Yes?
No.
Sound familiar so far?
Yep.
Very familiar,
Incredibly.
huh? So, next, disaster recovery, right? And what is that? The ability to recover for an event that has taken down a cloud service, right? Every company needs to have something called PTO. And what is PTO?
Point to objective.
Come on, guys. Don't disappoint me. What is PTO?
You said BTO?
PTO.
B2. Like, I think back.
Okay, PTO is point time objective.
Point time objective.
Point time objective, right?
I thought you said BTO, like B as in boy TO. Sorry.
Sorry, PTO.
I wasn't to PTO. Okay.
No, it's not personal time off. No. It's point time objective.
Oh yeah, point in time objective. So the time it takes to recover.
Oh, sorry, it's not PTO. I'm sorry.
RTO.
So it's RTO. The computer was right. I was wrong.
RPO.
I don't know why. I don't know even what I was saying. PTO.
Oh my goodness.
Personal time off. My God. Okay. RPO, recovery point objective. I'm sorry, recovery point objective. And what is that, please? Can you tell me what that is? Recovery.
The time to recover any lost information or lost data due to the disaster. The amount of time.
Okay. RTO, recovery time objective. Recovery time objective refers to how much time an application can be down without causing significant damage to the business. Right? So that's the RTO. And the RPO is the amount of data that your company can afford to lose. Okay? So that's the RPO.
Is that figure constantly evaluated and reforecasted, or is it usually constant?
No, I don't think it's constant. I mean, you can set this to be a constant, but it all depends on the company, how much they can afford, because this is expensive, right? The smallest the RTO, the more expensive it's going to be, right? But I think it's not an exact number. I think it's an approximate, because it all depends on how your system is performing, right? But you can have an estimate of how much time you can be down, right? And the smallest the RTO, the more money you have to pay, right? So the RTO is not simply the duration of time between loss and recovery. The objective also accounts for the steps IT must take to restore the application and its data, right? So there's some human intervention here, right? And you can have like an approximate how much time you can have there, but there's some steps that the company, especially the IT department, have to take to be able to restore the system, right? And the data. So the RPO, like I said before, is how much data you can lose, right? Before any significant harm is done to the business, right? So that has to do with the disaster recovery plan. You have to have some RTO and RPO there to be able to, remain operational, right? And healthy. So cloud services disaster recovery can happen very quickly with automation and services being readily available to use. Okay, so Azure has something called a recovery services, where you can back up your servers and then restore your servers from there, right? You can have some scripts that can do that automatically, right? Or you can go there manually and restore your servers. I don't think that's a good idea to do it manually. That's not a good idea, because there are so many things to take care of and to be thinking about. You're not going to be in front of a computer just waiting for a server to be down and then proceed to back it up, or I don't know, to restore it from backup or something like that. Scalability is the ability of a system to handle increased load. A lot of traffic, you can be able to cope with that traffic, right? The ability to increase or decrease resources for any given workload. You can add additional resources to service a workload, known as scaling out, or add additional capabilities to manage an increase in demand to the existing resources, known as a scale up. Scalability doesn't have to be done automatically. All right. So the difference between, because probably you want to know, Professor, what's the difference between elasticity and scalability, right? They're very similar because they both increase or decrease resources. Well, elasticity is done automatically. So here is done automatically. In the case of scalability, doesn't need to be automatically. It can be done manually, right? So you have something called scale sets, okay? Auto scaling in AWS, scale set in Azure, okay? You can have a policy. What is a policy? It's a document, right? It's a document that has some instructions for a particular operation. In this case, is scaling, right? So you can tell Azure or the scale of the policy, right? Whatever service is working here, you can tell it. You can tell CPU, right? If the CPU is greater than 80% for 5 minutes in a row, then add one virtual machine. Or if the CPU is less than 20% for 3 minutes in a row, then remove 2 virtual machines. So this is just based on the needs of your company, of your business. But this is basically 2 policies here, one for scaling out and one for scaling in, when your traffic is increasing or decreasing. This can be done automatically, right? Now, technical skills, requirements, and consideration is another technical term. So cloud services can provide and manage hardware and software for workloads. Therefore, getting a workload up and running with cloud services demands less technical resources than having IT teams build and maintain physical infrastructure for handling the same workload. Okay, so one of the things that the cloud provides is the ability of using less people. I don't know if that's a benefit or a curse, because some people, will lose their jobs if they're not qualified for that particular infrastructure. Okay, that's why cloud providers they send technical personnel to train the personnel of the company so that they can be familiar with the system. That's one of the things that cloud providers do when people migrate from on-prem to the cloud. So they train the staff of that company so that they can work with this. But this is a benefit. That IT team can focus on something else, not, working on servers and patching, updating things that the cloud can do. Okay. So a user can be expert in the application they want to run without having the needed skills to build and maintain the underlying hardware and software infrastructure. So you don't need to be an expert if whatever is behind the cloud. That's what they call whatever is above the hypervisor. You don't have to worry about that. The cloud will take over. The cloud provider will take care of that. Okay, so you don't have to be an expert. Cloud providers are, every day they're creating more and more features, and they're making the life of company personnel easier. Even people are not in a company, they can still operate the cloud without being an expert at a particular thing. For example, programming or coding or IT resources that can still operate the cloud. All right. So every now and then, if you subscribe to any channel or on YouTube, like for example, a channel of a cloud provider, a channel of AWS or Azure or IBM or Google, you see that they're constantly posting videos to make your life easier. And I think that many people that are not familiar with the technicalities of a programming language or networking or security can still work in the cloud. They're making videos and they're improving the infrastructure for people that are not technical to be able to still operate in the cloud. So, and then this takes us to the next term. You can increase your productivity by focusing on things that really matter and leave everything to the cloud provider. So they can work on that. I don't care about that. I'm gonna focus on my business, on just working with my customers and the business logic and everything, and then forget about this racking and stacking of servers. That's something that I don't want to deal with. Okay, so on-site data centers typically require a lot of hardware setup, right? That's when you have your data centers on-prem, right? And that's something that business owners and people, you can relay the message to them. I know that you work for companies that probably are considering moving to the cloud. This is a disadvantage. The fact that you have to be dealing with hardware and physical servers, that makes your life more difficult, right? However, you can have more control when you have your servers on-prem. You have more control. That's why you have to look for a very trustworthy and very, secure cloud provider to be able to give them your data, right? So that they can store it. And I believe that Azure it's a good example of this, security, right? All of these cloud providers, they take security very seriously because, the data is in the cloud. It has to be secure. They have to use, server side encryption. They have to use, symmetric, asymmetric encryption. They have to use all that, SSL, all these type of, security systems so that data can be secure. So that's very important. And I think that business owners can think about that, and they can focus on increased productivity instead of, software patching right here, racking, having a place for your servers and your appliances and everything, stacking that, all the time consuming IT management chores like, updating your servers, cleaning your servers, maintaining the data secure, all that security. So cloud computing eliminates that need, right? That need for many of these stacks, so IT teams can spend some time on achieving more important business goals. This is what I've been repeating so far, exactly the same. Okay, so you guys can become ambassadors to your company and talk to them about the benefits of the cloud and how many headaches they can avoid by moving to the cloud. Of course, this is a process. This is not, I just want to move to the cloud and that's it. No. Someone will come to your company, explain to you how the process is going to be. They're going to present to you. They're going to use the total cost of ownership, calculations to be able to understand how much money you're going to expend when you move to the cloud. And believe me, the difference is huge, right? So the money that they're expending right now is going to be so high compared on how much money they're going to spend on the cloud. Now, if they still want to keep control, they can think about a hybrid architecture, right? And we've seen that before. So you can have everything in the cloud, or you can have part in the cloud and part on-prem. If you still want to keep, stay in control of some of your data, okay? So predictive cost considerations is the ability for users to predict what costs they will incur for a particular cloud service. Costs for individual services are made available and tools are provided to allow you predict what costs a service will incur. And you can also perform analysis based on future growth. So if we come here to the portal, and then I come here home, I think I did this already. Let me see. Oh. Okay, this is the one. Okay, so signing. Thank you. This is the advisor. Remember trusted advisor in AWS? This is similar. Trusted advisor, Azure advisor is the one that gives you recommendations on your security. Well, let me show you. So if I come here and type Azure monitor, I'm sorry, advisor. So you can have here, it gives you recommendations on cost, security, reliability, operational excellence, and performance. And I can tell you guys, this is exactly what Trusted Advisor does. So if you're familiar with AWS, you can understand that this is exactly what Trusted Advisor does. So it gives you And I'm sorry that I keep repeating about AWS. It's not that I want to mention AWS. It's just that if you're familiar, and like you said, some of you mentioned that you want to know the difference between AWS and Azure, and it gives me an idea that you already know AWS or some of it, then I can tell you that this is very similar. These are the five, components that advisor works with, right? So it will give you recommendations on these guys, okay? So I was going to do this. Sorry, just got distracted with advisor. You can just click on, just type billing. And this is where you see the billing of this particular account, right? In this case, I don't have anything, so it doesn't show anything, right? But it says here that I have $200 as credit, and then I haven't used any of that. We're gonna use that probably today or Monday, right? Be sure to use the credit because there's a countdown here. I still have 29 days, right? So this is the section where you see how much money you've been spending in the cloud, right? All right, security. Cloud providers offer a broad set of policies, technologies, control, and expert technology skills that can provide better security than most organizations can otherwise achieve. The result is strengthened security, which helps to protect data, apps, and infrastructure from potential security. Every time you create a resource, every time, you don't see it here because this is not a resource, this is just the billing, the cost management plus billing. But every time you get a resource, let's see here, security group here. A resource group. I have this one. We have the advisor here, right? We have metrics, alerts, and we have policies here, right? So you can create a policy here to just restrict or allow traffic here or access. And you also have IAM here, which is identity and access management. You can have some, depending on the user. I don't have any user right now, right? But you can assign some roles here, right? You can assign a role. I have my user. Of course, I am the administrator here. I'm the owner, right? But if you want to create a role, for example, you want to add a role here, or a role assignment, then you can have several type of roles here, right? Which is different from AWS. This is more, it has more roles here. You can create your own role if you want to, your custom role. But I can tell you here that the main roles in Azure are owner, contributor, and reader. Those are the three main roles. Okay. Now, if you hover over this, you're gonna see what the owner can do, what the contributor can do, and the reader can do. For example, the reader, it lets you view everything, but you cannot make any change. So only you can read only, right? The contributor, you can manage everything except access to resources. So you cannot create a policy that gives access. You cannot grant or restrict access. You can manage everything except access. And of course, the owner can manage everything, including access. So those are the main three roles. Of course, if you go down, you're gonna have an Azure Sentinel contributor. So you can have reader, contributor, and owner for a specific service, right? Or you can have an owner for a subscription, which is this guy here, right? Right. You can also have this concept of lock, right? I can add a lock, right? And I can give it a name. I can say it's resource group. And I'm using camel casing. You see the first letter of every word. Actually, this is Pascal casing. Camel casing will be like this, but I just want to use this. So I want to use this type of lock, delete or read only, if I want people to read only. But if I want nobody to delete, then I click this. So whatever resource that I create inside this resource group, whatever resource that I create, and I will do that on Monday, probably, cannot be deleted. Nothing inside this resource group cannot be deleted. Why? Because we have a lock. And until we delete that lock, nothing can be deleted. Okay? So we can delete it here. Can delete it, and that's it. It's gone, right? Of course, I can delete that lock with the Azure CLI or the Cloud Shell here. I can delete it from here. I can delete it externally. If you guys were able to download the PowerShell and the Azure CLI, I can do that too. Okay, so that is part of the security of whatever resource or resource group you have. Logs, policies, access control. Okay, that's part of the security. Okay. Economies of scale. Can someone tell me what economies of scale is? Can someone tell me that, please? I believe that there's some people here in this class can tell me that.
Isn't it like when you save money depending on how massive your production size is?
Makes sense?
That like you save more money the higher you go. So it's kind of like in AWS when you would reserve instances, you would save money doing stuff.
Not exactly. What it has to do is the more customers they have, the more money you save. As the cloud provider grows, they can give more discounts to customers.
Isn't it economies of scale what you're looking for?
Yes, right here. Okay, so it's the concept, is the ability to reduce costs and gain efficiency when operating at a larger scale in comparison to operating at a smaller scale. All right, so the more the cloud provider grows, or your company as well, you can provide more discounts to your customers. Right? So cloud providers are very large businesses and thus can leverage the benefits of economies of scale and then pass those benefits to their customers. Right? So those benefits that you get because you're growing and growing and growing, you're making more money. So you don't want to be greedy. What you do is just give to customers more discounts, and then you can make more. Resources are cheaper, right? Because you're growing. Okay. So here you have one server here. You have more servers, and then you have a big server here. CapEx versus OpEx. All right, can you guys give me an example of a CapEx? And I think that you see in front of your
Buying servers.
Buying servers, right? Yeah, spend on physical infrastructure up front. What happens when you want to start a business and you're not in the cloud? What do you have to do? What do you guys have to do?
Invest in physical
facilities,
infrastructure.
You have to spend money on the physical things of your business, right?
Working database.
And how in this world you're gonna know that you're not over provisioned? How do you know that?
You kind of really don't. You have to kind of take a guess.
Right. How do you know that you're buying more than you're gonna need. How do you know that?
You don't know.
So you basically don't know, right?
No.
You really don't know.
Yeah, like Lani says, we have to guess, right? And
It's-
what is one of the
it's not-
benefits for those guys that did cloud practitioner and know a little bit about the cloud? What is one of the benefits of the cloud?
Pay as you go.
Yeah.
You pay as you go. But related to this,
You can stop guessing.
You
You
can
can
your-
stop guessing. Yeah.
you can stop guessing on the money you're spending, right? You can just start in the cloud, and based on your needs, your service is gonna be provisioned or deprovisioned, depending on whatever you need, right? So you can deduct the expense from your tax bill, right? You can go up front, cost, value of the investment reduces over time. You know, this is capital expenditure. Now, examples that we have the server costs, right? You have to buy servers. How many you're gonna buy? I don't know. Maybe 4, maybe 5. But what if I need 10? What if I need only 1? So that's a problem, right? So kind of waste of money, right? That's one of the benefits of the cloud, that you can stop guessing, right? You don't have to buy any server, right? It's all virtual. You have to pay for storage. Is storage expensive? Is it?
Yes, it is. It's
Hey, yes, it
maintenance.
is. Yeah.
How many Mac users are here? How many Mac users? Something that is really, really distinct of Apple is how expensive storage is. You can buy a computer, a Windows computer, that has exactly the same storage capacity as a Mac computer. And the Mac computer is going to be 2 or 3 times more expensive than the Windows computer. It's just a matter of beauty. That's it, beauty. But it's the same capacity, the same, computer, but different shell. That's basically what it is. So storage is expensive, right? It's not cheap, right? So when you buy servers, you have to have storage in your databases, right? So you can store your data. How you gonna keep your data? You're gonna use it and just throw it away? You have to store your data. With the cloud, storage is ridiculously cheap compared to on-prem, right? You have to spend money on network, right? You have to buy routers, you have to buy switches, you have to buy hubs, whatever you buy, right?
You have to hire a lot of people.
Huh? Sorry?
And you have to hire a lot of people too.
Yeah, you have to hire.
It's not only equipment.
Yeah, you have to hire networking people, right? And believe me, they're paid well. They pay well, right? And when you have network things, you have to have security. So you have to hire security people, right? Of course, when you are in the cloud, you have to hire security people too. But those are cloud security engineers. It's not the same as a security guy that works with servers and all that. You have to spend money on backup and archive costs. You have to back up your data. How frequently do you think that your data should be backed up? How frequently?
Every minute.
Every minute? Wow. That's very frequent.
I guess it depends on the business.
Depends on the business. Good. Well, we see that, Roger, if you have a business, you're going to do that. That's a little drastic, but still valid.
It's cheaper in the cloud.
Yeah, still valid, right? But it's very important to do it at least once a day, right? 1 or 2 times a day. It's very important to back up your data, right? And there are different kinds of backup. There's differential and increment backup, that you will only back up the new data. You don't override the old one. You just add the new one, right? So you have to archive your data. That data that nobody is using anymore, or they're not using frequently, you have to archive it. You're not gonna have it where all the data that is frequently accessed is, right? Or are. You would put that in different vault or a different place, right? Data centers infrastructure costs. So if you have a data center, you have to pay for the physical servers, you have to pay for electricity, you have to pay for heating, air conditioning, all that, everything that a room needs, right? You have to buy software licenses, right? Especially with Windows, right? You have to buy licenses. Right? Technical personnel, right? It's like Eric said, you have to hire people that work with this type of appliances. Now, operational expenditure, right? OpEx. So we have here, what it means is spend on services or products as needed. Can you guys give me examples of OpEx? So you told me that capital is those investments, upfront investments that you buy, right? These guys here, servers, storage costs, network. These are things that you have to buy when you open a business, right? And when you all have a business, you have to buy them every now and then, right? If you need
Office supplies.
I'm sorry?
Office supplies.
Office supplies.
Maintenance.
Okay. What else?
Maintenance.
Okay.
Licenses, software licenses.
Right. Mostly recurring things. For example, your bills, right?
Upgrades.
Your monthly bills, your licenses.
Internet services. Internet services, for example. Internet services.
Those are the expenses that keep your business operating. That's why it's called operational expenditure, right? Your monthly bill, you get billed immediately, right? Even when you're in the cloud, you have to have OpEx, right? You have to pay Azure, right? You're gonna get billed every month. You're not gonna have the cloud services for free. You have to pay that. Deduct the expense from your tax bill in the same year. No upfront cost. Pay as you go. Those are operational expenses. You have to pay as you go to keep your business running. Right? Ongoing money spent for services and products. Licenses, office supplies, things that you need, electricity, water, that coffee that people like to drink at the office, those donuts that at a police station people eat, those candies that people buy, chocolate that people bring to the office. There's some people, have you ever worked with people that they always bring food to work? There's some people that have that gift of bringing candy, sweets to the office.
Mm-hmm.
And they share with everybody. Sweet people. Recurring costs, your bills every month. Yearly support agreement with vendors that need to be renewed. For example, you're going to have a support plan with Azure, and you have to pay for that plan every month. When you have a reservation with Azure, 1 year, 3 years, you have to pay at the end of the year term or at the end of the 3-year term. Keeping hardware running, electricity, cooling, heating, etc. Right? So that's mainly what operational expenditure is. So in summary, capital expenditure is server costs, storage, network costs, backing and archiving, data center infrastructure costs, buy software licenses, technical personnel. In a few words, everything that you need to start your business, right? And operational is everything that you do frequently, that you have to do recurrently, right? Any questions? No? This class doesn't have any questions ever. That's a good thing.
I feel like we're still too in the beginning of it to
Yeah.
actually have questions.
Okay. Good. So consumption-based model, right? There's no upfront costs, no need to purchase and manage costly infrastructure, the ability to pay for additional resources as they're needed, ability to stop paying for resources that are no longer needed. So the last one is what we said before. There's no need anymore to guess. So we're not going to pay for services that we don't need anymore. We pay as we go. That's the pricing model of Azure, right? And I think it's the pricing model for every single cloud provider is you pay as you go. You don't need to be guessing anymore. You can stop spending money on services that you don't need, right? So here we have all the models, and then we have this consumption model, which is this one here, that, if you need 2 servers, right, then it goes up and then it accommodates to the need of the business, which is pretty good. Okay. Type of cloud models. So we have a public cloud. This concept is a little different from AWS in the way they approach it, right? Because when you talk about AWS, you don't see a public or private or hybrid clouds. You talk about a public, or you talk about all in, or hybrid, or private deployment models, right? But here, when you talk about the public cloud, right? So what do you think is Azure? A public cloud, a private, or a hybrid cloud? Azure.
Public.
It's a public, okay? So it's owned by cloud services or hosting provider. It's owned by Azure, right? It provides resources and services to multiple organizations and users. And it's very important that you understand this, guys, because this is going to be in your exam. The differences between public, private, and hybrid, right? So basically, when you are in a public cloud, you are trusting a cloud provider 100%. You're trusting them, right? You're giving your data, you're giving your resources, you're giving all your peace of mind to them, okay? So they are taking care of everything that has to do with your business, right? So that cloud can be accessed via secure network connection, typically over the internet. Okay, whatever service uses the internet is not 100% secure, right? And there's no such a concept of we are 100% secure. That doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. If 100% security existed, we wouldn't need any security expert. Everything is secure, right? Why would I need a security expert? And maybe Brian and Dubois and Ant would like to speak about that a little bit more. And the security, if there's such a thing as 100% secure thing, you think that's possible?
No.
That's not possible. Basically, there's 2 types of companies: the ones that have been hacked and the ones that don't know they've been hacked.
And people say that ignorance is bliss. I don't think that when it comes to security, it's a bliss.
It's a bliss for hackers.
Yeah, it's a bliss for the hackers. I think it's a curse to the company. Okay, so whenever the internet is involved, there's nothing 100% secure. Okay, But the cloud providers they have put some systems in place that they offer the highest security possible, right? But still, you need to supervise that and watch over that, because hackers are always looking for weak systems and systems that are not patched and all that to exploit it. Okay, but these companies, these cloud providers, they have secure links, right? That can be used for the company on premises to communicate to the cloud with the cloud. They have secure links that are private to that company and the cloud provider, and they are encrypted end to end. And they try to make it as secure as possible. So that's a public cloud model, right? Now the private one, it's operated by you as the company, right? You have more control. You have control of your data. The data resides in your company, right? On premises. It's a cloud environment that you as a company create in your data centers. It is similar to an intranet that it's typical of the company only, right? It's private, right? You have something called self-service access to compute your resources provided to users within your organization, and your organization is responsible for operating the services that you provide. Okay. So this is a private. So a public is the company you give your resources to another company, right? And it's operated and owned by the cloud provider. The private is operated and owned by your company. It's only for your company, right? And then we have the hybrid, which is a combination of both of them, of the public and private, where you can host, you can own, well, actually you own all the data, it's all yours, but your data can reside both on premises and in the cloud, right? So this combines the public and the private clouds to allow applications to run in the most appropriate location, right? So there's some services that, makes it easier for people here to communicate with the cloud, right? One of the services that Azure uses is Active Directory, right? Where people, they have their credentials here. And with those credentials, you can use them here in the cloud as well, okay? So we have, sorry, see here. So there's something here called Active Directory, right? And by the way, they also have services that they also have their icon, right? So look at the icons here. So the icon for a storage account is like this rectangle here. Billing and cost is a circle with a $sign in the middle. Advisor is like a cloud with kind of a seal here, like a badge here. Then you have like an octagon here, something like with many sides as a resource group. And then actually it's like a pyramid, right? So they have their own icon as well. Virtual machines, they are like a computer. You see a computer here, left-hand side. Security center is like a lock here. There's a lock here. Monitor is like a watch that is monitor things. Virtual network is like a greater than and less than symbol here. Azure Cosmos DB, this is like a global DB, similar to DynamoDB, that is global, can be global. You have like a global symbol here, like the globe. SQL, you have this standard symbol for databases. This is a function app. It has like a lining symbol here. quick start, you know, like a rocket, favorite, you know, these are, they're very descriptive. They have descriptive icons here. But this, they have the Azure Active Directory is when you create users, right? You can switch your tenant here. In our case, I'm using this tenant, which is the one that is free for my subscription, but you can create a tenant here, right? The tenant is like the hub for an Active Directory. Your Active Directory. This is where you create users, right? If I want to create a user, I can give it a name here. I can say Juan Pedro. Actually, you have to put here Juan Pedro. And it's going to have like a domain here. You know, the email, the domain name I need is internal here. I can put a domain here, a custom domain. So I'm going to here Juan Pedro, one, and then Pedro. I have the choice of auto-generating the password or creating a password. I'm going to create a password here. It's a good thing that it's hashed. Okay, so I can put that in a group. I can create a group later. I'll put it here. I can just give it a title and department, and I create a user. As you can see here, in this notification, whenever you take the exam and they ask you about this code, this icon here is just when you see the notifications of resources that are being created, right? So now I have this guy here. Now this guy, I can see this guy here and more. Then when I come to the resource group, right? Again, I can come here and access the access control. I am here. I can create a role, right? And I can just make Juan Pedro an owner. Okay. Juan Pedro, you see, one. And then I can make it an owner. So right now, Juan Pedro is an owner, right? Of this resource, right? Of this resource, not of the subscription. I am the owner of the subscription, which is inherited when I created the account, right? So, very important. You can create roles for resources or for the subscription. At the subscription level, or at the resource group level, or at the resource level. You see here? This is a resource group right here. The
Can you
name
say
is,
that again?
huh?
Can you go over when you were like you could create it at the different levels? What were the different levels?
Okay, I can go here. I can add a role assignment, right? And when I come here, I select the role that I want. I can make. Let me create another user. One moment.
Okay.
So let me go back to the Azure directory. Okay, guys. Just let's put a point, a pin on that, and we're gonna come back to this when we finish. I mean the break, right? So it's time for a break. I'll see you at 8:10. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, guys, we're back. Is everybody back?
Yes,
I'm
Professor.
here.
Yeah, guys,
Yeah.
for the students that have not registered their attendance, there's still 2 students that haven't done so.
Ooh.
I posted I put that again,
Link?
the form link again on the chat. Please, if you haven't done so, register your attendance so I can have that in my records. There are 2 students that haven't done it yet. I have 23 students in class, and only 21 had done that. Okay, so please do it if you haven't done it. So we continue. So here we have a comparison side by side, maybe not side by side, one below the other one, of the public, private, and hybrid cloud. So this is just like recapping what we saw before. For the public cloud, no capital expenditures to scale up, right? We don't need that. We only pay for operational expenditure, but not capital expenditures, because the cloud provider will take care of that, right? Applications can be quickly provisioned and deprovisioned, and organizations pay only for what they use, right? Now, in the private cloud, organizations, they have complete control over resources because everything is on premises, right? Organizations have complete control over security. They have to have security in place. The cloud has nothing to do with that because they are in a private cloud. Now, this one is, the other model is more flexible. It's more flexible as, you can have both on-premise and in the cloud deployments. Organizations determine where to run their applications, either in premises or in the cloud, and they control security, compliance, or legal requirements, right? Now, let me go back to what I was teaching, just to go back to Tiara. So I'm gonna go back to here this is Active Directory. So I want to create a user, another user, right? And by the way, I can create either a user, or I can create a guest user, right? That's for someone that's coming to the company to audit the company, or something like an inspector that's going to be there for a week probably, auditing our data, our services, everything. So you create a guest user. Okay. So a new user, let me call the user. It could be an invited user, because for the invited user, it's going to receive an invitation through email, right? So you create a user, you give it a name. In this case, the username, let's call it Francisco Bueno. Francisco Bueno. So the name is Francisco Bueno. I still don't understand why Azure has this name here and then name or last name. I don't see the point of that, but that's the way that they created it, and we have to do it that way. So we can auto-generate a password, or you can create your own password. I'm gonna create my own password, right? Now I don't have any groups, so I can put this user in the group. I can create a group if I want to, but I don't want to create a group now. So I just create the user, right? Now here, in the notification icon here, this little bell here, it tells me that a resource has been created. In this case, the user was created. Now, if I go back to the Active Directory and I click on users, I'm gonna see that Francisco Bueno was created, okay? Now, if I go back to home and I see that I have here the resource groups. Remember, resource groups, every time you create a resource, you have to put the resource in a resource group. Let's say I have a virtual machine here. You see it here? So if I want to create a virtual machine, I'm gonna add a virtual machine right here where it says add, this plus symbol, a virtual machine. then it tells me here it's required that I have to put this in a resource group. Okay, I can create a new one, just call it VMs resource group, whatever I want to call it. All right, and then it creates it for me, right? So I go back to the resource groups where I put my things. Of course, that one that I was about to create was not created because I never finished the creation of the version machine, right? So I can have here in the access control section, I can have a user be authorized to make changes or read or whatever at this resource group level. So for this resource only. So I can add here, add a role assignment here. And then I can choose what type of role I want to give it to this user. I can choose owner, contributor, reader, right? So I'm gonna call this, just give it an owner role. And then I'm gonna choose here Francisco Bueno. Francisco Bueno is selected here, and then I save it. Okay. So the notification icon, it shows me that that role has been assigned to Francisco Bueno. So when I click on role assignment, I can see that Francisco Bueno is an owner of this resource, right? And of course, Francisco Bueno is going to be an owner for everything that is created inside this resource group. So when I create virtual machines or networks or whatever I create and I put them inside this resource group, Francisco Bueno can do anything he wants, because when you have an owner role, you can manage everything, including access to resources. So Francisco Bueno can give access to other users to this resource. Do you guys understand?
Mostly.
Guys, yes or no? You here?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a different concept from other cloud providers, but still the same. There's a role that is given. There's a users that is created. There's a group that is created, and then you put the user inside the group, right? When we create more resources, we're gonna see how it works and also how the logs work. Okay. You can have some cost analysis here. How much money is being spent per resource inside this resource group. Okay. Per service name, location, resource. Okay. Of course, nothing's been spent. There's no resource created yet. But you can see here per name, if you want to see what type of service it is, the location where it is, and the resource. Okay. You can have a budget here, just like AWS. You can create a budget. So it will notify you when you have spent, for example, more than $10. Okay, something like that. So here we have another concept, is the shared responsibility model. Okay, so on premises, private cloud, everything is managed by you. Okay, that's very important. You have to understand that. Green is you manage, blue is cloud provider manages. So on premises, everything is managed by you. And of course, this is a private cloud. You manage, you own, you organize everything. Data and access, applications, runtime, operating system, virtual machine, compute, networking, storage, everything is managed by you. Now, when it comes to infrastructure as a service, data and access is managed by you. Applications, runtime, operating system, virtual machine is managed by you. But the compute, networking, and storage is managed by AWS. I'm sorry, not AWS, Azure. Okay, so I teach more AWS than Azure. That's why. So in this case, we have virtual machines. So if you want to know something, probably in the exam they ask you an example of infrastructure as a service. A virtual machine is an example. Okay, a virtual machine, network, storage, all that is an example of infrastructure as a service. I think I sent you. I think you guys received a document that I sent. About IAS and PAS and SAS.
Yes, you did.
Okay, and it gives you some examples of each one, right? So our platform as a service, you only manage data and access and applications. Data, the cloud provider will never mess up with your data. The data is your problem. Your data is your problem. It's not the cloud. You see that none of them, the cloud provider messes with your data. The data is always yours. It's always managed by you. Okay? So whatever access you give people, that's you. Whatever access you give people here in platform as service is you. And the software server is you. So here we have, Azure functions, web apps, logic apps. I think that I sent you examples of each one, right? Software service, Dropbox, Office 365, email services, that's software as a service. The only thing that you manage is data and access. Everything else is managed by the cloud provider, right? So you only create folders, you have your emails, you create your password, you give people access to your email, whatever. That's the only thing you do with a software as a service. Only that. Same with Dropbox or Google Drive, whatever. Those are software as a service. You don't have to do anything else, right? So in all of them, you have to manage something, okay? In this guy, you manage the entire thing. This guy, you manage a portion of it. And the more far right you go, the less you manage, as you can see here, right? So infrastructure as a service. The most basic cloud computing services category, right? Servers or storage, networking, firewall, security, data center, physical plant building. This is important because, guys, this is, like I said before, it's a memory exam. They're going to test your memory, and they're going to ask you, what is an example of IAS? Choose one or choose two. And then you have to remember that it has to do with servers and storage and networking, firewall, security, data centers, physical plant building, everything that has to do with compute and all that and storage. Okay. So you build pay-as-you-go IT infrastructure by renting servers, virtual machines, storage, networks, and operating systems for a cloud provider. So basically, you are renting something from the cloud provider. Okay. And you pay as you go. That's infrastructure, right? Instant computing infrastructure provision and managed over the internet. Okay. Let me show you something here.
So it's like leasing a car.
Right. So I'm going to post this in the chat. Students, there's still, I don't know why, there's still 2 students that haven't registered their attendance. I don't know why. I have 23 people in the class. I don't understand that. So please, you haven't done so. That's very important. That's the only way that I have to know if you're here. So here we have, common IaaS business scenarios. I'm going to post this in the chat. Right. No, Omaro, on Friday, the exam is going to be on everything that we cover in the slides. My demonstrations, no. Okay. So I just put this link on the chat, just in case you want to know more about IaaS, infrastructure as a code. So this here you can see some of the advantages. You eliminate capital expense and reduce ongoing cost, improve business continuity and disaster recovery, innovate rapidly, respond quicker to shifting business conditions, focus on core business, increase stability, reliability, and supportability, better security, and get new apps to users faster. Okay, so these are some of the advantages of IaaS, and this is the cases, scenarios when you use IaaS. Okay, for test and development, very important. Website hosting, of course, when you have a virtual machine, you can host a website there. And also when you have a blob storage like an S3 bucket, you can host a static website. Storage backup and recovery, web apps, high performance computing, big data analysis. Okay, so this is information about IaaS, infrastructure as a service. Okay. Platform as a service. Okay, so in this case we have, it's like a platform. You have something where you put your code, your application on top of that, right? So it provides an environment for building, testing, and deploying software applications. When we get some demonstrations, probably Friday or Monday, I'm gonna show you how to create a web app, and you're gonna see how infrastructure as a code works. Okay. It helps you create applications quickly without focusing on managing underlying infrastructure. Like we said before, we don't have to manage anything that is on the line. You just have to work on the application and the data and access. That's it. No more than that. Okay. So I have another link here that does the same thing, but this time it's about platform as a service, right? I put it in the wrong place here. Okay, one moment. Oh, it's right here. So I'll put it in the chat. I posted it on the chat. Okay, so advantages of PaaS, platform as a service. You cut coding time, add development capabilities without adding staff, develop for multiple platforms, including mobile, more easily. It supports, it doesn't say here, but it supports languages like .NET, Java, JavaScript, Python, Node, Ruby, all those languages. Use sophisticated tools affordably, support geographically distributed development teams, efficiently manage the application lifecycle. And what are scenarios of the PaaS? Development framework, analytics of business intelligence, BI, and additional services. So you could read more about this, later. This is for hosting applications, apps, development tools, database management, business analytics, operating systems. I don't know if you remember in AWS Elastic Beanstalk. Remember that guy? Elastic Beanstalk. So this is similar. Okay, you can upload the code and then deploy the code. Software as a service. Here we have is a centrally hosted and managed software for end users. Users connect to and use cloud-based apps over the internet. For example, Microsoft Office 365, email, calendars. That's software as a service. Okay. I have a link here that I can share with you guys. Similar to the other ones. I'm gonna put it in the chat. So advantages of SaaS, gain access to sophisticated applications, pay only for what you use free client software, mobilize your workforce easily, access app data from anywhere. And these are the common SaaS scenarios. So for that, we have everything here all together, right? Once the software is created. Use these guys to create the software, and then when the software is created, that's the service as a software. Or software as a service, I'm sorry. So this is a comparison side by side of the three of them. So the most flexible cloud service is IaaS. You configure and manage the hardware for your application. Why is it flexible? Because you have some control over it, right? In the case of PaaS and SaaS, you don't have control, right? Because you only work with the data and the access and the application, but everything other than that is control and is, managed by the cloud provider. But in the infrastructure as a code, you have a lot of say here, right? Data access, application runtime, operating system, virtual machine. A lot more than this and this, right? And this one you have only data access application, only data access right here, this one. So that's why the infrastructure as a service is the most flexible one, right? Here you focus on the application development, right? You don't worry about, whatever is behind the scenes. You're just worried about what code to write and the deployment of the application. So the platform management is handled by the cloud provider, right? Here you pay as you go. When you have Office 365, you pay for a monthly or a yearly membership, and then you just pay for that and for what you use, right? And users, if you want to use another user, then you pay for another user. Users pay for the software they use on a subscription model, right? So that's it. Now, do you guys have a question? No question whatsoever? Any questions?
Nope.
Nope.
I think you should have gotten a test. Did you get a test? Can you check, please? Like a little quiz? You guys got a quiz?
You mean for the end of the slide?
Yes, for the class of today. A little quiz.
Like it would have come in as an email today?
Let me see. Let me check here.
We got module one.
Nothing as far as an email.
I see new material, important points.
Yeah, we're gonna go over the important points.
No. Azure platform as a service. Nope.
No. There's no quiz for today. It's for Monday. All right, not a problem. But it's very important, guys, that you understand that on Friday we're gonna have a test for today's content. Okay. One moment. Let me bring up the important points. Guys, again, there are 2 students that haven't registered for the attendance. I don't know why. I have 23 students online. That's very important. Again. Okay, let me see here. One moment. Okay, important points. Okay. I strongly recommend going over this PDF file. Okay, it's very important. So again, high availability. It refers to technologies that can be used to minimize IT disruptions by ensuring applications and infrastructure is made fault tolerant. Okay. So let's say that you had the following architecture for your application. Your application is hosted on a single version machine. What happens if the version machine goes down for any reason? Your application would not be available. So to make your application more redundant and more tolerant to failures, why not host your application on a collection of servers, right? So we have an application here. We have different virtual machines, right? So you're holding. Hold on. So you're hosting your application on 2 different virtual machines to be more redundant and more tolerant to failures. So if this particular server fails, then you can have this server still running. Okay, so it's recommended to have at least 2 servers running. Okay, so if one is down, then the application can still remain operational. Okay.
Yuneski, I have a question. Is it possible that one organization has more than one provider? I mean, can be AWS or Azure, or they have only one?
Okay. Why would you do that? Why? Why would you have 2 providers?
No, for redundancy. If for instance, Amazon platform has a crash, at least they have the other one as a provider.
No,
so that is because my question is if it's possible that one company choose 2, or with only one, all the services has been provided.
Well, to be honest, you are Florentina, right?
Yes.
Florentina, I don't see a reason why a company would decide to have 2 providers. I've never heard that. You're the first person that asked me that. It's not that I don't have an answer. It's just that it doesn't make sense. Because, I mean, what data would you give AWS and what data would you give? You would give a replica of the data to one provider? But remember, AWS.
No, well, my question is, well, maybe it's because, I'm working for telecommunication. And usually you don't have all the eggs in the same place, So usually the organization has one provider, and for diversity or redundancy, they usually choose another provider that will be the support for the other one in case of dramatic event. You see?
Well, yeah, you're talking about physical access to systems. That's why.
I think that one provider is enough, because a provider, either AWS or Amazon or Azure, they're provided to be they're designed to be redundant if a data center is down. So there's no way in this world that AWS would be shut down completely. That doesn't happen. Or Azure.
Okay.
When a data center is down, it doesn't mean that the entire cloud provider will be down. It's just a data center. a data center, but Azure and AWS, they have tons of data centers, right? So,
Okay. So, if they have a crash, if they have a down in one region, there is another region that can supply the services.
Correct.
Okay.
But you have to configure that. You have to do it that way. You have to make your system redundant, right? If there's no a failover strategy in your infrastructure, it will not fail over. You have to have that. You have to make your system resilient and redundant. The cloud provider provides the resources for you. You have to make it redundant. There's some services that are native. They have native high availability. So by themselves, the data is replicated, but the other services are not. For example, virtual machines. You have to create virtual machines if you need more, right? But if you have a scale set and you start with 2 virtual machines, when one is down, the other one will come up and take the place of the one that is down. So you have to create your infrastructure. That's why you have architects, Azure architects, solutions architects that create infrastructures, and you have to make it highly available, right? When a data center is down, it doesn't mean that the entire Azure is down. It's just one data center. Now you have to have some failover strategy that traffic would be routed to another data center. Do you understand?
Yes, I get it.
It's not that one data center is down and one data center is down and the other are down too. No, you have one data center down and then you fail over to another data center. But you have to have that in place. If you are only one virtual machine working, if that one is down, you are doomed. There's nothing else you can do. You only have one. So you're going to have downtime. All your users are going to be without any service until you bring that server up again, right? So if you have two, one is down, and in the meantime, you can fix that one that is down and the other one is up and running, taking the place of the one that is down. And then you can fix the other one. Or simply, you can remove it and create another one. When you have a scale set, that's very important, guys. When you have a scale set, every single server that you create is going to be identical to the one that was before. All the servers that I created with a scale set, which is auto scaling, right? All the servers are the same. It means that you can dispose of them easily and create a new one. They have exactly the same data. They have exactly the same size. They have the same disk. They have the same operating system. They have the same network. Everything is exactly the same. You have two servers. One is down. The other one is taking the place of the one down, and it has the same information. Everything is the same. So you have to have at least two servers, 2 or 3. So if one is down, the other one will be operating. Okay, that's resiliency. That's why you don't need 2 cloud providers. You don't need 2.
Okay.
Because every cloud provider is capable of being redundant.
Okay, there is that. Okay.
That's why I said it doesn't make sense to have 2 providers.
Yeah, I think what she's confusing it with is being able to have 2 different network providers, just so you can actually have access to your resources.
Network provider, but that's something else.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. That's my question is because I'm working with network providers. I'm doing a parallel with the cloud services. I'm very new in cloud services. So
And
so
your house,
I want to find.
I understand your question. Sometimes in your house you have to have internet at all times. So you have 2 providers. You have Comcast and you have AT&T. Just in case one is down, I can still use the internet of the other one. Is that what you mean? Something similar to that?
Yes, something similar. That you need a physical connectivity
Yeah,
you know. So,
yeah, but the cloud is different.
okay.
The cloud is self-sufficient. You don't need any other cloud provider. You can choose either one. You can meet with the people from Azure and see what they have, what they can offer. You can meet with the people from AWS and see what can offer, and then you choose the one that is more convenient for you. And that's it. Once you have that cloud provider, out of convenience, then you're gonna be resilient if you create the strategies. So you don't have to worry about data centers availability if your infrastructure is highly available. You don't have to worry about that. You don't need another cloud provider. With that cloud provider, is more than enough.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So here, even if one machine were to go down, you would still have the other one available. This makes your application more tolerant to infrastructure level failures, right? That's what I was talking about right now, right? You can also increase the availability for your virtual machines by distributing them across availability zones or availability sets, right? Okay, you have to understand the difference between these two guys, right? Let's see this like a small group of resources. Like you have all your virtual machines in an availability set, and something that makes them apart is the service level agreement. Availability zones, they have a 99.99% of a service level agreement. It means that your data is going to be available 99.99% of the 100. And the availability sets, it has a service level agreement of 99.95. So it's less available than availability zones. These two together is what is called availability options. So when you create, let me go back here. When you create a virtual machine, right here, and you add one here, you have something called availability options right here. You see here? So Azure offers a range of options for managing availability and resiliency for your applications. Architect your solution to use replicated virtual machines in availability zones or availability sets to protect your application and data from data centers, outages, and maintenance events. So you can choose. Sorry. Whoa. One moment. I was about to sneeze. Sorry.
Bless you.
Yeah. No. Thank you. So you can have an availability zone or availability set. Something that this is a little different. It is by numbers, right? So in this region, East US, you have a lot of regions here, right? You have a lot of regions here. Yeah. In this region, you have 3 availability zones, 1, 2, and 3. We choose another region, US East 2, 3 as well. Let's see, West US 2, 3. Let's see another one in Europe, for example, France Central, 3 as well. So as you can hear, availability zones, right? Or I can have an availability set, right? I don't have anyone here. I can create it. So I can click here, create one, and then I can call it my availability set. And they have something called, this is a concept of fault domains and update domains, right? So what is in a fault domain? Virtual machines in the same default domain share a common power source and physical network switch, okay? So you can put your applications, your virtual machine in different fault domains. So like when one is down, the other fault domain will take place. The biggest amount you can have is 3. See here? 3 is the biggest amount you can have. And update domains is when you are updating your servers and all that they will be moved to another update domain. The most you can have is 20. Okay? So you can have 20 update domains and you can have 3 fault domains. Okay? So you can put it here. You can say probably 2 here and then 5 here. This is the standard, right? And then I can create one, and then my virtual machine is in this availability set. So it's very important when you create load balancers. Load balancers will balance virtual machines that are in the same availability set. So it's very important that you memorize this guy, the guy that I just created, my availability set, because when you create another virtual machine, then you're gonna put that virtual machine in this availability set so that you can balance the traffic with the last load balancer. Okay. So that is either availability zone, one or so in AWS you can choose several availability zones. Here you choose only one. Okay. Then you can choose the subnet later when we get to network. As you can hear, you can see the different tabs here. Disk networking. When we get here, we're gonna select a version network. I don't have any. I have to create one, but it gives me the choice here, the option here to create one. Now it's very important that the virtual machine is in the same region as the network. That's very important. When I create the network, I have to put the virtual machine in the same region as the network. Okay. When we create virtual machines, we're gonna know more about that. Don't worry about that now, but at least I want you to know that this exists: the availability zone and availability set, right? Service level agreement 99.99. Service level agreement availability set 99.95. Okay, so your application will be more available in availability zone than it is in availability set. Disaster recovery. This refers to the concept of minimizing IT disruptions by recovering them to another data center that could be located hundreds of miles away from the regional data center hosting your application. So usually in AWS, there's like 50 miles apart between data centers, like 50 miles, right? In the case of Azure, it's like hundreds of miles away. Why? Because they want to make sure that data centers are secure. You know, if there's an earthquake and the two data centers are close to each other, then both data centers may be down because of the earthquake. So they put data centers, like miles apart from each other, so they can be more resilient, and not disrupted, right? In case of a disaster. Okay, so the following architecture diagram is an example of implementing disaster recovery. So we have here the primary region, we have the secondary region here, right? And then we have an app here and an app here. Let me tell you something, these two apps are exactly the same, okay? Otherwise, what's the point of failing over if they're not the same? So these two apps are the same. And the virtual machines, the four are the same. The four of them are the same, right? So we have one region here, West US and East US. What happens, Florentina, if the primary region is down? Do I need AWS? Do I need AWS if I have Azure? Based on this architecture, do I need another cloud provider, guys?
No, it'll jump to the other region.
No.
The whole thing is architected in Azure, the whole thing. So if this one is down, phase over to this one. And then your application will have a little downtime because there will be, for sure, a certain time, a period of time, between this falling down and this being up, okay? Or this one taking over. It's gonna be a small downtime, but it's not that high, right? It'll be worse if you only have one region. That's even worse, okay? So your RTO and RPO is gonna be so high that probably is going to be so hard to recover the data that you lose. Okay, so here your application is running on virtual machines in the West US region, right? Here the users are accessing your application. At the same time, you might have the application hosted in another region, East US. The application might be in a shutdown state. So this one is standby, right? In standby. This one is not operating. This one is just here, just in case this one falls down. Because a complete region is a lot of space. It's a geographical location that covers a lot of land, a lot of miles, right? So this one is not operating. It's just in standby, just in case this one fails, right? Still, you're being charged for this one because the more availability zones and the more regions you're using, the more money you're going to pay. But it's good for your business, all right? So this is only meant to be running if the primary region goes down for any reason. This one is not running, but you are still paying for probably high availability for this region, okay? So now let's say there's a disaster in the West US region and all the data center goes down, right? So in this region, there are several data centers. It's not only one. So a region is composed of several data centers with hundreds of miles from each other, like it says here, okay? What happens if the data center goes down? So to minimize any disruption to your users, the request to the application could now be redirected to the application in the East US region. So now you would start the application here and make sure all requests are routed to the secondary region. So this one is down. Bye-bye, no more primary region for now. So all the traffic, the users will be rerouted to this secondary region. And your application still running and operational. User is happy, you know, the business still running, and you're not losing money, which is pretty good, right? So it's worth paying for a little more money to be more redundant, right? Than not being redundant at all and lose all your data and losing customers. So that's even worse, right? Now we spoke about elasticity. So then before we continue, do you have any questions, please? No questions?
No.
It's everybody here.
Sorry, Florentina again. How many regions has Azure?
More than 60. 60 plus.
More than
60 plus. That's what they put. Could be 61, 62, 63, but they say 60 plus. Because probably they're working on some
and it's possible, and it's possible, for instance, sorry to insist, but it's to be clear, okay?
Yes.
So it's possible that a global company that has operations in USA and in Europe, in Africa,
yes,
has different cloud providers, or for each, or it has. I got it that you explained about the regions in USA, okay? But suppose that the other, the European affiliates decide to have as a provider another cloud provider. It's possible that they talk between each other, or that case is not possible. Okay.
Yes, let me show you this.
Are compatible, understand?
So one of the first terms that we talked about today, number one, you see there?
Yes.
Global reach is the ability to reach audiences around the globe. Cloud services can have presence in various regions across the globe, which you can access, giving you a presence in those regions, even though you may not have any infrastructure in that region. Okay? So it's like as I was showing here. When you create your servers, you can choose any region you want. You see the region here? This is about Japan West, Korea South, West India, Canada. You can put your server anywhere you want.
Okay.
And you are in the United States, right? And you're sitting in front of your computer.
Okay.
That's the good thing about the cloud, because you know you can go global in minutes. Okay.
And but if the latency, it will be different if the service is provided by one. The latency, yes, latency.
Yeah, they have something called let me see. Okay, just one moment.
Is it like the CDN?
Yeah. Azure Content Delivery Network. Okay. Yeah, I guess it's different. Sometimes it's confusing when you know one cloud provider, it becomes a little confusing with other providers because they have a different name. Content delivery. Let me see here. CDN here. So they have a CDN, right? A CDN is a content delivery network, right?
Yeah.
So
yes.
Yeah, it will work with locations that are close to your user, right? So this guy works at the global level, right? So it will deliver the content based on the location of your users, right? Let's say that you have users in Japan and you have a content delivery, which is working with another service that routes the traffic. It's known as Route 53 in AWS. It has a different name in Azure. It will route the traffic based on the location of the users, right? So this guy will, if your users in Japan are requesting the content, this guy will cache the content close to Japan. And then the users can go to that cache location and get the content from there. So they don't have to come all the way to the United States where you are. They can get the content from Japan right close to them. And that way you can minimize the latency that the users are going to experience when they get the information from the cache location. So this is like a machinery. All the pieces come together, and when you see, you have a very well architected infrastructure, and your users, they're in Japan, and when they request information, it's gonna be like the place is just around the corner. It's gonna be fast, like you're using your computer now and accessing Google, that fast. All right. Okay. Of course, it's gonna cost you more, right? There's a pricing tier here, right? So you have different pricing tier here, and you can see here that gives you a price right here.
I see.
Cache header here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is a little more advanced for administrators and developers.
Okay.
At least you can have some knowledge about it.
Okay.
CDN. Oh, so, guys, is everyone here? All the people that I see in the chat, I mean, on Zoom, they're here. Everybody here?
Yeah.
Is anyone?
Yes.
I mean, of course, if the person is not here, is not going to respond. Is anyone that is logged in and not present? Yeah, you know what I mean? They're logged in, but they're not in front of their computer. Anyone? Is everybody here? Because I still don't understand why I have 23 people that are connected and only 121 has filled out the form for the attendance. I still don't understand that.
A virtual person.
That's so weird.
Can you check the names of the?
It's like I don't have time for that now.
In other region.
Yeah, they're in different region, man.
China West.
Yeah, probably they have latency in my information, my request. They cannot hear me. They're too far. It seems that Zoom is not resilient. Redundant.
They need redundancy.
Yeah, I don't know why. I'm a little confused.
Zoom might be using a different cloud provider.
The Zoom provider. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the one. Yeah.
Does it show in real time when the list is updated on your end?
It does. Almost real time.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, Google has that. It takes a little, they have a little like, eventual consistency. Like you don't see right after it's written.
You have to blink twice.
Yeah, even when you refresh, it doesn't show right after you make the change, but after probably 2 or 3 minutes, it updates automatically. Okay, so elasticity, right? Elasticity refers to the concept of how flexible your architecture can scale based on demand. So for virtual machines, you can increase or decrease the size of the virtual machines at any point in time. Cloud service model, the different cloud service models. So we have IaaS. Let's follow the order that we saw in the PowerPoint. PaaS, SaaS, right? I think I gave you guys example. Let me see here. Can you make sure that you have examples for each one? I think that I planned it to be delivered to you at 9:30. Okay, let me see here.
It's 9:07.
Yeah, still a moment. So are you guys understanding? Yeah. Are you liking Azure a little bit more than AWS? No? Yes.
No.
Could say for sure as Azure.
Yeah, I'm getting to love it. You know, I love AWS, but I don't know. I find this guy interesting.
I do like the organization of how everything is. Because AWS, you kind of have to, it's kind of like clear cut, unlike AWS maybe.
Yeah.
Of like what explanations are. So that's kind of my observation so far.
So you would get something like this, right? So these are examples of PaaS. It's very important that you guys remember this, because you may have questions in the exam that ask you to determine which one it is, a platform as a service. So web apps, for example, you have, these guys here. You can use Internet Information Services, and you can use Java, Python, .NET, PHP, Nodes. And they have a service level agreement of 99.9. So it will be set up with that service level agreement. So we have mobile apps, right? And this is for iOS, Android, and Windows, right? So you have logic apps. No apps are hosted, but there is an orchestrated business logic app to automate a business process. These are initiated by a trigger when a predefined business condition is met. Okay? A logic app. You may have functions. This is like Lambda in AWS. This is the same, well, similar. Nothing is the same. So it's a functional app that can perform multiple tasks within the same application. These functional apps host smaller applications, such as microservices and background jobs that only run for short periods. Remember that in AWS, a function execution time was 15 minutes, or is 15 minutes. This one is similar. It's a short time period. Right? Web jobs. These are a part of a service that runs within an app service on web apps, on mobile apps. They're similar to functions, but they do not require any coding to set it up. Okay? So these are examples of platform as a service, right? I have this one too. Okay. You're going to receive all this, okay? Don't worry about that. So we have this one too. I have this one too. What is a IaaS? Okay, so we have here some examples. Some examples here, like server, storage, network, security, data centers. Platform as a service. We have what we saw before in the other document, right? We have software as a service, and we have these examples here: Office 365, Google Drive, Dropbox, Slack. We're using Slack, MailChimp, Netflix is a software as a service, you know, the application Netflix. Very important you remember examples of each. That's very important, okay, for the exam. And I provided you guys with this. This one doesn't contain an example for platform as a service, but you have this other one that has examples. Okay, so you have examples for the three of them. Okay, go back to the document. So are you understanding?
Yeah.
Yeah, so far, yeah.
Okay. So Azure Virtual Machine is an example of infrastructure as a service, like I said before. Whenever you see a virtual machine, that's infrastructure as a service. So here you don't need to manage the online infrastructure, the physical servers and storage is managed for you. This helps remove the capital expense and reduces ongoing cost. The virtual machine also has a service level agreement. To achieve that service level agreement for any on-premise server will require a lot of work. Right. That's true. Infrastructure cloud services also allow you to scale based on demand. How can you accomplish a high service level agreement? By being redundant and resilient and having two regions for machine virtual machines, and then you can have a higher service level agreement. Okay. So an example of a service, premise service is the an Azure SQL database. In this case, we don't have a database. So to this list, you can add databases. Okay. So I can add this. This is completely in the cloud, so it will be updated automatically. So I can say, okay, and this will be saved automatically. When you access it, you're going to see that. Okay. Here, you don't need to manage the infrastructure. Let me put here Azure. Infrastructure, or even the underlying operating system and platform components. You can just start hosting your data or your web application. You host it on a virtual machine. It reduces development time, right? And you can use an array of database technologies available in the case of Azure. Postgres, MySQL, all that. All of these services use a pay-as-you-go model, the same as software service that uses a pay-as-you-go model. An example is Microsoft Office 365. We have more examples here. Like I mentioned before, we have these guys here, very important, right? Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see it better, because these guys are important for your exam. Okay. Maybe I can put this a little bit bigger. Okay. I can use, this is 24 and this is 30. Make this a little smaller, 24. Okay, so here you go. You have these examples here, and then these guys here in blue. Okay. Here, you don't need to manage the infrastructure, even the underlying operating system, platform components, or even the software. Here, you just start directly using the software. You can access your application data from anywhere, and you don't have the headache of managing anything. Do you guys manage anything in Word document or Excel or PowerPoint? No, that's software as a service. So we saw the cloud models, the public cloud, owned and organized by a cloud provider. The service that offered over the internet is available to anybody that wants to hire a cloud provider or pay for cloud services, and you pay based on the service you need. And all the service and storage is managed by the cloud provider. Advantages of this public cloud is no need for capital investment, of course. You normally don't pay any money upfront to use a cloud service, and most of the services are based on a pay-as-you-go model. You don't need to manage the underlying physical infrastructure, hence ongoing maintenance costs are also reduced. Cloud providers such as Azure have data centers located at different regions across the world, Florentina, across the world. You can quickly provision resources on the cloud. It allows you to get up and running in no time. It takes minutes to be online. Private cloud, this is owned by you, by your company, right? It's only used by users of a business or organization. You have more control. It could be hosted either on the company's on-premises environment, or it could be provided by a third-party service provider. What are the advantages of the private cloud? So you have complete control over the internet, the environment. I'm just repeating what we saw before. They can implement their own security protocols at every layer to secure the environment. The data held in the environment is in complete control by the business. Hybrid cloud, this is a combination of both. It allows data and applications to be shared across both environments. What are the advantages of this hybrid cloud? You can still leverage their existing on-premise environment. This is important if they have already made a substantial investment in getting their environment in place. They can keep data which needs to be secure, but their standards in their on-premise environment. And they can extend their infrastructure to the cloud without making a further investment. And they can move workloads to the cloud gradually. All right. So guys, I think that we have covered a lot today. Okay. So we have covered the different terminology of the concept of the cloud. What we saw in the PowerPoint, like high availability, reliability, elasticity, scalability, global reach, all of those terms. We saw fault tolerance as well. We spoke about the different cloud models like public, private, and hybrid. We saw infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. We saw examples of each. Okay. We saw how to create a user and how to assign a role to it. We spoke about disaster recovery. We spoke about availability zones, availability sets. We're going to speak more about this in the next lecture. So you don't have to worry about much about that now. We spoke about failover strategies, right? How to, failover from one region to the other one if this one is down. We spoke about RPO and RTO. RPO as the recovery point objective. How much time you can be down, and recovery time objective as how much data you are able to lose. I think that's pretty much it that we saw tonight, right? Now on Friday, let me see. On Friday, we're going to have you're getting every day, you're getting like 2 documents that are titled Go the Extra Mile. Have you seen them in your email? Go the Extra Mile? Like to learn a little bit more about Azure?
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering how far I have to run.
How far you have to run? What do you mean?
To go the extra mile.
Here's another mile. That's for the administrator associate exam. Just in case you want to go the extra mile. So we're going to have, on Friday, we're going to have the review quiz of module 1, right? Let me see here. It has 15 questions. And we're going to have the labs for module 1, okay? So we're going to have a busy Friday, right? I'm going to put you in different rooms so you can work together individually, but at the same time, you're going to be together just in case you need help from each other. And I'm going to be around just checking on you to see how you're doing with everything. But the exam, we're going to have it, the latest, we're going to have it at 6:35. That's the latest we're going to start the exam, right? And I'm going to put a counter like I'm going to give you probably 20 minutes or 25 minutes to answer the question. Okay. It's like 1 minute and 10 seconds, 1 minute, 15 seconds per question, more or less, right? So you should get a reading assignment like this reference. Let me show you a reference for everything that we talked about today. Like this, something like this, you're gonna get it today. Why cloud services, and you have several references here. You can click on that and you can have more information here. I prepare all this for you guys. I took my time and I put this together so you can have as many resources as you can, so you can pass that exam. And not only pass the exam, I want you to know more about the cloud, because I'm not preparing you for an exam. That will be a mediocre thing. I'm preparing you for life, for you to have a better understanding of the cloud, right? So you have for lesson 1, these are lessons that we saw today. The PowerPoint was divided by lessons, divided in lessons. So for lesson 2, lesson 1 doesn't have any reference. So lesson 2 have this reference. Lesson 3, you want to know more about cloud computing, public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, cloud model comparison, shared responsibility model, when we saw the platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, and software as a service, what AWS manages, what Azure manages, and what you manage, okay? So these are references. You're gonna get this every day, right? Every module, you're gonna get references. What else? Let me see here. Okay, so also you're gonna get, let me see, for today, you're gonna get these guys, create an alert and test an alert. Say how to create and test an alert in Azure, and also how to create an action group, right? This is very related to this. When you create an alert, then you create an action group, and that action group is gonna, perform an action like sending you an email or, notifying you by text or something that something went wrong, why this alert was triggered. Okay, so this is going to help you. These are extra miles that you can work on them, take your time and become more familiar with Azure, and then acquire more knowledge if you want to pursue a certification beyond this one, right? How to redeploy a virtual machine, how to configure backups, how to manage the size of a VM, add a network, add data disk, how to configure storage, all this, okay? Every exam that you take is gonna be reflected here. You're gonna have grades for you, right? So it's very important that you take the exam. Exams are gonna be available the day you take it. So it's gonna be available on Friday, and it's gonna be closed at 9:30. So it's very important that you are present in every class so you don't miss anything, okay? So guys, this course has been designed mostly by me, so you can be really, really, really prepared for the exam and for whatever comes after the exam, okay? So it's almost time to go. Do you have any questions?
Are we doing the exam like in a group setting or by ourselves?
Well, we can do challenges. You're gonna work together, of course. The labs, you're gonna be separated in rooms. I'm gonna put you in rooms for the labs. You're gonna work individually in your computer, but at the same time, you can discuss with your teammates if you get stuck on something, you have questions about the lab, because the lab you have to create, you have to follow instructions and create virtual machines, create storage accounts, create things. That's on top of me showing you in class. I'm gonna show you as well. The labs don't have any CLI thing. We're gonna do CLI exercises in class too, right? So don't worry, a lot more is coming, and you guys are gonna be busy. Okay, so go over the slides today. You have tomorrow and the entire day on Friday. So go over everything that we covered today. I don't think it's complex. It's a lot of information, but it's very familiar for some of you. For others, I think it's not difficult to understand. And we'll be able to pass the little test on Friday and then do the labs and whatever challenge, if we still have time, we can don't make any changes. I see that Nail is making a change here. Don't make any change to this, right? Okay. Download it. You can come here, file, and download as a PDF, and then download it. Okay. I see the chat that is very active. Anyone multiple choice exam? Yes. Yes, it is. And it's going to be graded. Okay. No, there's no lab practical portion in the quiz. It's just theory. Remember, for this exam, there's no lab in the exam. It's just theory. It's a lot of memorization. We're going to do a lot of practical exercises in class, but not in the exam, not in the quizzes. Any other questions? Almaro, I don't understand why you talk about availability zones if you don't explain the Azure regions before. We're going to get to that part when we study regions. That's going to be next. I just mentioned them because it's part of this. It's when you create a virtual machine, you have to talk about that. That's for sure. There are going to be 15 questions on there in the
lot of info.
In the exam. 15 questions, right? Any other questions? I'm trying to answer all the questions, and yes, Roger, is a lot of information, but take a day at a time. It's we're gonna be soon, probably next week, we're gonna be scheduling your exam. Okay, so it's very important that you don't leave anything for the last minute. We have to work every day. We have to study every day. Okay, the exam is 15 questions, gonna be like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. All right. Any other questions? No? You're welcome, Alba. You're welcome, Andrea. Welcome, 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 everybody. Welcome. Yes, it is. And it's going to get better, Roger. It's going to get better. Yeah. What music are you listening, Yara?
That was a happy birthday text. That
whose birthday is it?
I was sending it to my friend and it started playing.
Okay. All right. So thank you. I will see you on Friday. Guys, study. I have 3 advice for you. 3 pieces of advice. Study. Take care. You're welcome.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.